That's like a 3 minute nuclear warning, isn't it? That message. Uh,
Yeah, it's coming.
so how are you anyway? What's been going on?
Oh man, I'm good. Just really busy. Yeah, my life is just like no free time anymore. So Full of Hell's really busy. There's other bands that are busy, and I got a daughter and like a house and a print shop and all kinds of. There's just something at all moments of my life, but it's all a dream come true. So happy to be here. You know what I mean?
I, I, yeah, I was going to say because it's been pretty hectic. Like when you kind of reflect on it, I envision like the band has been around for like almost 30 years just by the releases and who you've played with and the collabs and just everything. And I was like, because it was like 2009, is that right? When you guys kicked off around about roughly? It seems longer.
Yeah, it's hazy. Spencer started the band without me for a few months. But yeah, I think it was like late 2009. Yeah. Seems like a different life at this point. It's weird.
a a lot going on in between. And and you've pretty much played with like amazing bands. Did you ever kind of think that was going to happen? I mean, no one does when they start a band, but like,
Mhm.
fuck.
Uh, a very burning desire to do all of the things, but not knowing what some of those things even were or how any of it worked. I just remember little things like starting Full of Hell, and I remember talking to an older friend of mine, like asking how Converge does what they do. Like, how do they make that work? They're adults and they're still touring and writing records. Like, what does that even mean? Like, how I just didn't know how anything worked. I just wanted it so badly. As long as I can remember. So, and I know my bandmates are the same way, you know. I don't think they've ever done anything else besides be in bands. So, yeah, I don't know. It's like burned into your circuits, like hardwired. Yeah.
It's because it is just phenomenal when you do think about Converge, like the amount of shit that they fit in, and his creative art stuff, the record label, the a million different projects that he has that are all
Oh yeah.
fucking amazing. And touring and different members in different, it's like it's wild, isn't it? Really, like just
Yeah. Well, you learn over the years, like it's all of them too. It's not even like they all do
yeah.
all these other things and they all fathers. When I found out I was having a kid, I freaked out because I was just like, I always knew it was probably in my future, but I didn't know, is the band gonna break up? Like, am I gonna have to do how, you know what I mean? Like, am I gonna come off the road? Like, what does this mean for me? Does anybody do this? I totally tripped. And the people that I went to was actually the Converge guys, in particular Nate.
Yeah.
And I just remember like panicking and calling Nate and talking. He talked me through it. And he was like, well, these other five guys talked me through it. And like, there's like a network of like cool dads in that circle of bands where they all kind of like supported each other through it. And after talking to Nate, I remember getting texts from all the Converge guys, being like, congrats and blah, 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 and having like a little bit of advice. And I don't know, it's just like you just learn as you get older that there's like a rhythm to it. And there's even like a saying we've all had, what would Neurosis do? Because those guys all look up to Neurosis in particular, as do we. But
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
always thought that was funny. And for our slightly younger set to Converge, we were always like, what would Converge do? Because they just kind of kept it real and like the music's extreme and it's really creative, but it's still hardcore. It's like very, down to earth and like no ego, no bullshit kind of vibe.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think it's the wisdom of those people, and it's good that you can call on that because
Oh yeah.
it's been done before, and I think the way that they do it and the way they compose themselves is always, and they're very approachable people, and just it's
Definitely.
like you said, keeping it kind of at that hardcore base. Really, it's never kind of moved away from that. Considering the people they've worked with, is just like fucking
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I just feel really fortunate that those were the people that we looked to, is even Neurosis, because like Neurosis is that is a metal band, sure, but like with hardcore roots and like ethics. And it's just I'm glad that those are the people we looked to because like it's like it's a vision grounded in reality, you know? And they don't compromise and it is high art and all of that stuff, but like they'll be the first to tell you like we're just dudes, you know? Like they don't like the idea of heroes. Those guys are my heroes, like whatever. They're gonna have to deal with that. But like I don't know, I love the egoless behavior like behind it, you know?
Yeah, recently, Botch came out to Australia, and those guys were so fucking down to earth. Like you were just, like because we never expected the tour to come, and then to see these guys, but they were just.
I mean that's it's crazy they came down. Like it's a miracle, like honestly.
It is,
Because
yeah,
the fact that they came back in general, I was just like, whoa. Because we loved Botch too, like for so long. Um, yeah, they're the same ilk, same peer group basically as the Converge
yeah.
guys.
And it was funny too because they were happy to hang and have a chat as well, and they weren't like oh no, we're gonna behind the stage and the security, they were mingling and happy to have a chat and talk about obscure fucking records and stuff, so that's fucking heartwarming as well, like it's
Oh yeah,
great.
I'm sure they got a lot out of those shows. I think I just like I have a feeling about how those guys operate, and I'm sure it was just like such a life affirming, cool experience to come back and really get that love because they're a beloved band, but like I don't know, things are different now. I think there's like different expectations in the community's bigger, and like I think there's more like financially there too, which is irrelevant on a deep scale, but like still, I like to see a great band get their flowers, you know? So it's like
Yeah.
for them to come back and have these like super sensational, instantly sold out shows all over the world is cool. They deserve it.
It's great. Um,
Yeah.
I I wanted to talk about the well, it's not a new album for you, but the latest album, it's fucking great, man. Like it really, um, yeah, it was surprising. I mean, there wasn't a big change with it, but yeah, how has that been going for you? Because it's like just a phenomenal record.
I think everybody has like usually when you put a record out, like the how is it going is more like how are people receiving it? What do you think? And I don't think any of us look anymore. Like we talk to our friends about it and whoever wants to talk about it, but like I've never felt like more like I don't need validation from
Yeah,
a review or something. I've read a couple that are thrust upon me because it's like sometimes they're just like they're all so thoughtful that like yeah, I want to read them, but I don't really think it's like even healthy for me to read that stuff. So I guess I'm trying to say like I think we're a little disconnected from what we traditionally would have gauged as like how are we feeling about the record. I can say that like we love to play the songs and like everybody's really stoked about how it came out. Like internally, we're all just like, yeah, this is great. Like, if people don't fuck with it, like, okay, like I don't know. Like I don't know what's good anymore anyway. Like this is what we love. So, and I just feel like I feel confident about it. Like I like it. So that's like it's fine.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, 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 really. Yeah, no, no, that's more about, because critics, even as a someone who writes for a zine, it's more about how it translates live. I think and do you think it fits in well with the rest of the kind of catalog? It seems to flow pretty
Oh
good,
yeah.
like live wise.
Yeah, definitely. And like the sets we've been playing kind of span from 2010 to like now. So all of it like flows for us when we're playing live in a way. And it's really fun. And this I don't know. We like variety too as far as like especially as far as BPMs go. So it's kind of nice to play more mid-tempo songs interspersed with the blasting. Like I think it's a little more variety, it's exciting. Overall, I just say the vibe is like pretty like positive and excited and kind of like it's weird that we're here like doing any of this stuff. So like let's just like play and enjoy ourselves and be polite. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what's the album about? I mean, I'm gonna touch on the lyrics because I think the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics are always good, but I
Thanks, man.
I really fucking adored them on this album, and I want to kind of touch on a couple of songs. But what was the album generally about?
So I wrote this album about like the towns that we are from and experiences we've had, internally with our families or, in my neighborhood kind of things. Because I live in Pennsylvania, which is about 300 miles away from Ocean City, where the whole rest of the band is from. But there's the same kind of crazy redneck in both towns. And every family has like, its issues or whatever, its darkness. So I drew on some of those stories through my own experiences and through like Dave and Spencer's experiences in their own lives. And then, I drew on experiences I've witnessed or been part of with like the crazy pillhead rednecks around here where I live, and just like the plight of life as a rural American. It's kind of a disenchanting. The Bogans are the same way.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
the kind of destitute, dead end like situation that people find in that's super classist and this and that. There's a social message there, but it's also very personal. The record's just about home. It's about where we come from, and all of the imagery is like pulled from Ocean City and from where I live. And I don't know. It's so in that way, all the records are personal, but this one is the most like with the most immediacy
Mm.
and like the least veiled. Like it still is just because that's how I like to write, but like I tried hard to be more direct on this one, like a little bit more, so that it would feel a little more obvious. And it was really like exciting, strangely exciting to just write about the mundane bullshit that I know from around here. Stuff that I really can just write off the cuff, like really easy to draw on. I don't know why it didn't occur to me to do that sooner. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean those experiences kind of ring true. Yeah, I grew up in a semi-rural town, being into hardcore and metal, and that's those experiences are very vivid and they kind of stay in your mind. Like from
right.
the equivalent of kind of small town bullying and abuse and like kind of just singling out. So that's it. Kind of you can pick that up in the tone there. And I think the lyrical writing is beautiful. Like it's like prose, man. Like it's not, um, you know, it's not like rhyming couplets or anything, but it's so intense. I mean, like I wanted to kind of pull out particularly like the um, the self-titled track. Like that's the lyrics are fucking great. Like I think I pulled out here. I had written out how it's got the lower the drape, taste the honey, rotten to the touch. That's just like coagulated bliss. That's just like
Right.
that's fucking great writing, man. Like
I'm never sure. I got over the couplets thing a long time ago, and I think
yeah,
about it every now and then, but it just doesn't feel right for me. That song's about shooting heroin, which
yeah,
I have no experience with, but the title like kind of had like a dual meaning, but one of the more immediate like physical object you can grab onto is like a clogged heroin needle. That's the coagulated bliss.
yeah,
Um, some of those stories are also like fictional, like the what's the track called? It's like the third song. Yeah, it's the third song. That's about like meth heads cooking meth and like eating each other and getting fucked up, like eating their like it's a ridiculous, hilarious story, but it's like a meth fantasy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's like it serves a purpose, like to describe like a kind of bigger picture or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's also, and as a side, I'm a nurse that works with homeless people, but I've also worked in the alcohol and drug sector. So when I was reading that, I could kind of definitely see that. I also love the lyrics of Vacuous Dose as well. That was just like that thing about the I've got here, the stuff about the what have I got here? The mind will always betray the heart and soul, a body at rest, a derelict, abandoned pest, and that thing about you can't take what's dead and convince it to grow. Like that's man,
Yeah.
that's like some classic kind of almost old school American writing to me. Like that's fucking great.
Right. So that song's like actually a sequel to this song we wrote a long time ago that I feel like we've played this song like 5,000 times live just because it kind of delivers in a couple simple areas. This song Vessel Deserted was
Yeah,
about my best friend who like throughout all of middle and high school, like a very old friend, we grew up together. We had bands together. We shared a dream together. He was a wild animal, and we went off to college together. And he was a very early fentanyl overdose. And I found him in his room, and it was super fucked. So I wrote about that for like a long time. It's in his photos in some of the art. It's not this art, but like, ages past. And I thought it would be cool to like 12 years later to write about, the grieving process now, because it's just like this weird kind of dead little spot in your heart. It like never gets better. And it's like 12 years later now. And Vacuous Dose was like the VD was like a kind of like a maybe like an Easter egg that no one would ever find for Vessel Deserted. But that's like the sequel to Vessel Deserted. But it's
Wow.
about your young friend who so many that's the thing I like the most about these stories is like the most traumatic ones are such common experiences, which, sure that you could look at it and say that that sucks. Like so many people have lost friends to like overdoses and stuff, especially nowadays. It's like hot shit nowadays. Fentanyl is everywhere up here. But yeah, I don't know. I love how universal the experiences are. So it can kind of apply to you in ways you might not expect, or, you feel kind of isolated when you're writing about these things, but then you realize like it's pretty common, pretty normal experience.
It is, yeah. It's hard to imagine that it'd be the norm, but it really is. I think across the world, like that's yeah. And as you said, it's also part of that, you know, how that grief process works as well as a side. There's a kind of epidemic thing, but it's also the psychological kind of yeah, the time, particularly the time period you're talking. Like that's reflection and inspection, isn't it? Going back and looking at that.
Definitely. And like the record is meant to be kind of like reflective. We're in our 30s now, and we're, starting families and doing all these things, and like life's kind of sad and disappointing sometimes in like an existential way, in like a very deep, indescribable way. So it's just interesting to look back on that with some perspective and try to talk about it. Excuse me.
Yeah, no. I think it's great. Like it adds another level to it. I mean, I think there's like the creative side musically, and then adding that to it as well. The lyrical context, and then when you're kind of giving some context to it, and then of course the fucking art, which is the art is always, I think that's on top of it. That layer, I love the layers of that.
Right.
It's
Pretty polarizing. Yeah, so Brian Montori is the artist, and he's actually the one that kind of inspired me to write the record about like, Pennsylvania and Maryland in the first place, because he's such an old friend. And he had perspective on us as people. But so his paintings always kind of look like that. He's a very surrealistic, like psychopath. And he grew up going to Ocean City, Maryland, and he's very familiar with the Appalachian Mountains too. So he had a lot of reference points already for how we wanted to kind of like chew up and vomit out our home, like onto the canvas or whatever. There's a lot of really cool little Easter eggs. That stuff means a lot to me too. Like I want when I listen to a record, like all my favorite records, they're so cohesive, like from top to bottom. I love when there's like thought put in all the little details. And I think Brian like kind of nailed that, you know. He kind of like peeled everything apart, and that's the one thing we always give the artists. We hire them for like what they do. We don't really like to tell them what to do. But we provide lyrics and like album theme. And it's theirs to do with what they will, I think that's like the most organic way to go about that.
Yeah, no, and I think like as a listener and a fan, I think we appreciate that as well. Like because that effort is there rather than because there's so much and we like a lot of bands, but there's a lot of it's got generic artwork and just it's
Right.
thrown together, but you can see the level on it. You know what I mean? I think even the back cover of the record is fucking great as well. That's just
Oh yeah.
that's
Well,
wild.
well, dude, that statue exists. That Sunman thing. That's
Yeah, yeah.
the drummer Dave's grandfather was a pretty strange guy, and was like an abstract sculptor. And so Dave's yard is like filled with these like ruins of like weird statued men, and one of them is that sun guy. So there's like that record means a lot to Dave too, because Dave's got a pretty wild family history, and it's always pretty turbulent. And I think like his father passed a couple years ago, and like his grandfather passed a couple years before that, and his brother's kind of a mess. And like I think there are like sometimes there are moments in our lives where we feel like we're witnessing the closing of a chapter, like as it's starting or whatever, and it's like profoundly sad, you know, or maybe you don't even know how to process this. I can't even really. I'm not inside Dave's head, so I don't know how he's processing it. But like, you know, I think like I got a lot of inspiration from Dave. I would say like the lion's share of the lyrics I was drawing on like Dave's experience in the world with his family, and like, yeah, it's chaotic and sad. Yeah, I don't know.
That's yeah, that's amazing because I was gonna touch on the kind of creative process, but you've really kind of answered a lot of that from it's not so I mean you've given a lot of insight about that, but where did the original concept come? I mean I know they're not kind of forced albums like, oh, we're gonna do a blah 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 album, we're gonna have a theme of this, we're gonna sound like that. I know that's just not that's not what you guys are about, but
Right.
uh where did the initial idea come from? I mean, you've answered some of those things.
Thematically, it literally came from Brian, the artist. Like
Yeah,
we were on the phone. We've been friends for over a decade. He's the reason I quit my straight job about 10 years ago. He was like, dude, just jump, you know, just do it, pursue art full time. He's like a very thoughtful big brother figure in my life. And it's just been there at important moments in my life. So I thought it was so like fateful that he also, we were on the phone like discussing early on, like just discussing the record and where it would come from. And he was just like, dude, it's time for you to come home and like write about where you're from, write about what you know. You've got a family now, like you just need to do this. And I was just like, it was like lightning, you know, I was just like, oh man, I know there's so many things to write about. This is so easy. And it ended up being like the easiest record to write for me. I can't speak musically, obviously, but lyrically, like it like fell out of me. Like it was so easy. Yeah, I don't know. And we also had a lot of time on this one. So the way I tend to write is like I can sit down and like force lyrics out and they're probably fine, but I just tend to kind of just not force it. And you know, if lightning strikes, I just type it out in the old
yeah,
notes
yeah,
app. And, you know, then I end up with these loose 4 bar phrasings and stuff. And I'm big on titles. Like I've always like been obsessed with titling because I feel like it just like, you know, it puts you in a place. I don't know. I love like I used to love titles that were like physical objects, you know, that would like
yeah,
allude to what the song was about. People always used to like compare it to FromSoft games like Dark Souls and stuff,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
I never played when I was younger, but like coincidentally was like aesthetically like right up my alley, you know. I just never when I was writing that stuff, I was never even aware of those games being like that. But the way that guy makes video games is very much the way I was like pursuing making records with Full of Hell, which is like the lore is deep, but they're not holding your hand and like pushing you to it. It's yours to uncover, and it just so happened that a bunch of my favorite bands operated in the same way. Like it's your responsibility to like seek out those answers or to get what you want from it, you know. And there's a lot to plumb.
Absolutely, and I love too because like when you see the titles, I know as a listener, I get excited about it. When I'm looking at the back, I was just like, wow, this is going to be like it's for instance the latest record. You're looking at the cover and that, and then you're looking at the titles, and you're like, yeah, this is going to be a journey. This is going to be, like it's rather
Right.
than, just like, I don't know, New York hardcore titles or something like that, which everybody grows up on that stuff, but I don't need titles with unity and, brotherhood
All
and,
has its own. I always like to say like I all those things have their place and need to be
yeah,
done. I love a band that like is very like solidified and is like doing a style and they're aware of what they're doing and like they're just doing it really, really well. I think that's essential too. I love that.
like
Um
it's like Hatebreed, isn't it? Really,
oh yeah, dude.
it's
They're
like
hate
a
breed.
stoic kind of chapters.
Dude, yeah, and I've plenty of bands that I love and singers that I love that like have their thing and like it's been done before, but they do it really well and like whatever. Everything we do has been done before too. We just kind of scramble it just a little bit. Like, you know, there's even we're not even the first like grindy kind of band to do noise rock stuff either, like at all. Like it's pretty classic. So, yeah, I don't know. All that shit's subjective.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Um, what are some of the influences? Not just musically, out at like on the band outside of music. What do you think some of the biggest influence is? It kind of books, film, or what? Or
I don't
what things
know.
jump out to you?
I mean, I really love a lot of Tolkien stuff, so I grew up reading that over and over and over again. So I always like was in that fantasy world mindset. I just loved it so much. And just the alliteration and the way he described everything was just like so wonderful to me that that was always like part of my DNA growing up. But I guess like film had a place. Anymore, I don't really know. I remember early in Full of Hell, I was really, really influenced by this harpist, Joanna Newsom, because the way she writes lyrics were just like, I still love her so much, but like, I just kind of gotten away from like, it was a little derivative, I think, just on a personal level. But like the antiquated English, like I love that still. I still use it a little bit, but I was young and like excited and had to be using it. You know what I mean? So a lot of that early Full of Hell stuff, our old bass player who sang a lot more would just see the lyrics and he'd be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, why? Like, it's like, I was like looking for a reason. If there was like an idea that I was trying to get across that felt too derivative or too like, I don't know, like it's been said a million times, I would like look at it in another language and title it in German or like, or have
Yeah.
a line in Latin. And it's just like, yeah, it's cool. I don't know, maybe trying a little hard or something too. Um, but I don't know, nothing nowadays. I'm sure I'm influenced by absolutely everything I consume, but I try not to listen to even, I don't even like seek out listening to metal very often, to be
Yeah.
honest. I don't think it's could like negatively influence me or anything. But that stuff has a way of working its way in.
Mm.
I saw an interview with that dude Glenn Benton from Deicide, the Born Again Christian,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was saying that he doesn't listen to any metal at all because he doesn't want it to like influence his creative process.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I get that we have riffs in our discography that are like slight variations of Morbid Angel riffs, that's just like in a different mode, and we didn't even realize when we were writing it. The shit just happens.
It's
So
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm not. Maybe nowadays. You said not musical, but like the past 5 years or so, I've been listening to a lot more hip hop than I ever have in my life, and I think that helps my rhythm. If anything, listening to pop and hip hop and like like more like indie singer songwriter stuff, like King Cruel or something.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
gives you a completely different perspective, or even like working with a band like Nothing. It just like switches your perspective around just enough where you like, you know, you can apply some of these vocal phrasings, you know, screaming them, and it complements this part, a lot of that stuff's pretty universal. People like to think they're extreme metal bands like so wild and out there, but it's a fucking rock band, you know, and
It
it's
is.
probably like really boring ass riff structures too that have been played a million times because they work. The old 1 4 5, it's like it's all the same pretty much.
Oh, that's like, let's sometimes I think about is like for a band that I'm in for like warm-ups and then vocal amazing stuff, like Alice in Chains. Like people say that
Oh,
can be
definitely.
generic. And it's like, but when you hear the vocal phrasing and stuff, the same as in a lot of indie rock and shoegazy stuff, it's
Oh yeah.
mind-blowing and really fucking clever. Like
Yeah, absolutely. And like I just can't imagine listening like having a narrow like list of the kinds of music that you listen to because the older I get, the more I'm really amazed by like genres that even like get in front of a lot of people and like there's really challenging shit in there from a production standpoint or from these little Easter eggs, that we can see as in challenging music, but they found a way to apply it. It's like pop music that's like really challenging. Like it's played by freaks. A lot of noise guys and like there's like I don't know, I feel like there's a fair amount of musicians that come from really experimental circles that end up like playing in bands that it's just really subtle, still really challenging. Like it's freak music, but like the masses have mistakenly consumed it. You know what I mean? Thinking it's pretty down the middle.
abs- absolutely. And I was going to say you touched on the Nothing collaboration. That was, I mean, that was the great record. And that, how did that come
Yeah,
about? I
thank
mean, I know all your collabs are super interesting there, and there's so much variety.
It's all friends. I mean, like
Yeah,
we
yeah,
only ever do records with people who I kind of push the Nothing one myself I'd like known Nikki peripherally because we always kind of existed, you know, next to each other, sort of. And I looked up to Nothing. I feel like Nothing's a good example of a band that kind of has like this like there's a level to it that's like really appealing to people that don't necessarily like heavy extreme music or challenging like weirdo freak music. But he's able to make it like so confrontational too and like so strange around the edges. Nothing is a challenging band. But yeah, I don't know. I finally met him at like a fest or something. I don't know if it was post COVID or what, and we were just chilling. Like he reminds me of my best friend back home, who's kind of a like a bad dude, like in a good way. And
Yeah, yeah.
I was just like, I pushed it, and it made sense, and he was into it. He was the one that I needed. I knew my band would be down, but like he was the one that I was like gauging interest, and he was definitely down right away. We have a lot in common, really. I mean, Nothing's really into that wall of sound, the My Bloody Valentine school of thought, where it's like yeah, it's pretty and shimmery. It's shoegaze, but it's like fucking brutal and loud and noisy too. So we had a lot in common there. My band loves shoegaze and, it was easy. I don't know how else to explain it. Like it was an easy project.
Yeah, no, no, yeah. I mean, yeah, an amazing record, and I agree. I think that some of that shoegaze stuff, like when you look at My Bloody Valentine and bands like that, they just destroy you. Really, like they're just really clever. Even the stuff I seen Kim Gordon, and the night before
Oh,
her Noise project played, and it was just my jaw was on the ground, like just it was all
yeah.
fucking pedals and just loops and stuff, and it was fucking great, like just yeah. So I think it's some of that stuff can be really surprising. Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
kind of
man.
limit to kind of
Sonic
the
Youth.
influence.
I think Sonic Youth is like a primary influence now. I mean, Spencer's loved them his whole life, but it's like really bleeding into Full of Hell. Like Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., all those dudes are like all that music's like straight up like astronaut music. But I mean like the impetus for the Full of Hell record musically was like Spencer was like, what if Sonic Youth wrote a grindcore record or Discordance Axis wrote a those are interchangeable. I don't remember which direction he said it, but it's irrelevant. But
Yeah.
yeah, huge influence. And I love that stuff. It's like it is really exciting for me to like listen to what he's making now because I feel like it's like a crystallization of like what he's been trying to do for a long time. And there's just a lot of I feel like a lot of creative energy when it comes to like it just feels it doesn't feel it gets tiresome writing lyrics to death metal or like to just grindcore. Like there's only so many directions to go. I feel like, for us personally, that's our experience with it. So I'm excited. It's fun.
And do you think all these collabs they've added to your own flavor as well? Because because of the collabs have been so varied, you know what I mean? Like it
Oh yeah,
seems to,
definitely.
especially with bands like The
I think
Body and that, like just wow.
I think it's the reason we're worth anything, to be honest, as far as artists go. I mean, I think yeah, so much of those collabs changed how we approached everything because it was like doing the records with the body was like the best first example because that was like shocking to us getting in a room with those guys. They were like they're one of my favorite bands of all time. And like getting in there with them, the way they make records is, excuse me, so alien and so strange compared to how we do things. We do things in a pretty traditional way. We dial the songs in like just about 100%, practice them to death. We go into the studio and we can make a record in like several days because everything's just like locked. The body goes in. I remember we did a tour before the first one, and I remember just like a couple times asking Lee, like, so what are you thinking about the collab? Like, do you have any ideas, like anything written or and he's like, nah, we'll think of something. So like we got into the studio and like they build these songs from the drums up. It could start with like one measure of a programmed drum loop. It's like or like the second one we got even weirder with, but it's like he had like a jungle beat that he'd made in his MPC in his drum machine. And like he was like, let's do a jungle song. And it's just like so the song builds from the bottom up off this jungle beat. Or like we wanted to do a gabber, like you're Australian, the Newcastle gabber stuff. We wanted a
Yeah.
gabber. I mean, you would be able to tell if I pointed it out. It doesn't sound like gabbery or anything. It doesn't sound like that, but it's there. But yeah, it's just funny how they start building songs as they do. We learned a lot from them. We learned a lot from Nothing and Primitive Man, like everybody we work with in that way. It's just, I think it's good for you. It's challenging. Put you in a room with somebody else, somebody who doesn't do things like you do things, someone that you might look up to. And if you're not getting anything out of it, like, I don't know, you're wasting your time. The Nothing one was like really good for us. Because we even went into a studio that we wouldn't have normally gone into. We recorded with this dude, Will Putney, who we're
Oh
friends
yeah.
with. Great producer. I mean, we always knew he was a genius, but like the records he works on are just like, it's just not our like circle, you know. It's more like in the metalcore thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he's like a
absolutely.
fucking genius. He's got like 400 or 500 album credits. Like this dude is a machine.
Yeah,
Um, and he was like excited to do the record, and we'd been friends with him, so we were like, and dudes. And he was the man for the job. It was so it's been really fucking muddy and like blown out and like don't do this, don't do that, no pro style anything. Um, so to go in there to a studio that is super pro and still sounds really crushing, you know, him going for like a dirty record, like we wanted him to basically make like a Swans record. We were like, do a Latter Day Swans record.
excellent.
But like being in a room with that guy, there's like so much wisdom there. You know, he's such a genius. He's a brilliant producer. It was exciting. We definitely learned a lot from him too. It just really opens your eyes. And you know, more even than doing records with the body as well. Like nowadays, we're learning a lot when we go on tour with bands that we wouldn't normally play with. Like we toured with Fit for an Autopsy and the Acacia Strain. It's just like not exactly the same scene as us, you know, but awesome guys and like really good. We did this mix bill tour, and it was so fucking cool to tour with bands that like take it really seriously, show up, have like production and stuff, and like they're just like on another level with it, and they're cool as hell, and they're really professional and like kind and talented, and it's just a different angle of the same approach. You know what I mean? They're all musicians like doing things that they're passionate about and like really giving it, and like it was eye-opening a little bit for us because we were just like, whoa, you know, when you're a kid, you're just so like, like tribal, you know, and like bound to your scene, and like this is how you do things. This is the right way. And the older you get, the more you realize like there's wisdom to be gleaned from every corner of like every approach to making music and making sound. There's something to get from it. And now you know, more than ever, I think our ears are open and we just want to like, you know, see how you're doing things. You know, we might do more of these like kind of metally support tours and like tour with bands like, you know, we would tour with Knocked Loose or like Lorna Shore or something too. Like those bands are huge and those kids are awesome and like they're really fucking talented and they're doing something different. And like there's just a lot to be learned. I don't know. It's a big world. There's a lot of different shit going on. You know what I'm saying? And I think it's like presumptuous to assume you know anything. So, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, no, no, it's good. Great. Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's great insight, I think, and that's yeah. I think if you don't want to kind of block out any of those flavors or experiences, I think it's really important. Um, are you still doing noise stuff and that live? Are you still because I know you if you I know
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
you are doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I still run the rig every show. It just depends on what we're going for. I mean, like there are songs where a lot of songs where like it's just in there that's like part of the song or the segues or whatever. But we'll go harder depending on like what we're trying to do. And that could be night by night too. I mean, like on the Dying Fetus tour we just did, it was pretty just like straight up full of hell style. So I guess pretty noisy depending on who you ask. But you know, if we get like a hair in our asses or something, or we're being treated poorly by someone or something, I don't know. There's all kinds of situations.
Mm.
We might make the set like really fucked up. I don't know. It just depends what everybody's feeling. If they're feeling froggy, um, what's fun about playing with those guys is that they're pretty down to change shit up on the fly, and there's like parts of the set that are different every night. So, um, there's always kind of like an open book to be like, let's switch it up a little. Let's do this tonight. And I'm always like pushing for that. I love that stuff. And those guys love it too. So
Yeah,
yeah, I
that'll
mean the
be.
noise is always there though.
Yeah, I was gonna say because in your
It's
tour
on
in
Bliss. It's
August here, you you've got a few dates in Melbourne, and I think you got two main shows, but you've also got one at the Make It Up Club too, which is sort of a noise experimental. So that'll be great because that'll be obviously a different variation. So that'll be that'll work perfect. So
yeah, yeah, and that's an improv club, so
yeah,
we're
it's great.
all improvisation. Yeah, I love playing there. I think we'll have the drummer from Thou sit in with us, and maybe the guitar player. The drummer from Thou is like one of the best drummers I've ever seen in my life. I've known him for a long, long time. This dude Tyler, his parents are Australian, funny
Oh,
enough.
really?
Yeah, yeah, I think his mom was a country singer or something. But yeah, he's got a yeah, for real. But he's like a mind-bending drummer. So I'm excited for that show because I want him and Dave to play off each other. But we've had some pretty
Wow.
funny. Yeah, yeah, we don't really have a plan for that one yet. We were talking about it a little bit, but we'll just play it by ear. That's what's so fun about it. We're fortunate that like we're all down to do stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. Yeah, so that's coming up in August, and I know you've obviously you've got a relationship and you've played with that band before, but I know and they've never been out before too, so I think that's going to be huge.
I can't wait. I hope
Amazing
so.
ex, experimental band as well. So I think that'll be a pretty phenomenal kind of combination. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that'll be great. I was going to say, so for you, I mean, how do you envision things in terms of like the live stuff compared to the recording? Is there, you can obviously add a bit more kind of flavor to the live stuff. So, um, I mean, you haven't got a preference, or yeah, there's
live.
some sizable difference.
My preference is live. It always has
Yeah,
been. I
yeah,
appreciate the older I get, the more I appreciate record making. Like I truly love it nowadays. I hated it when I was younger because it's really weird to record vocals, like especially like screaming vocals. It sounds so fucking shitty, and to like overcome that as a young guy or anybody doing it. I mean, everybody knows that feeling when they first do it. It's mortifying, but like to overcome that and try to figure out like how your voice sounds live in a way that you like it and do it on the record as well and get your takes. If you don't have somebody there to guide you, which I didn't really, it's kind of not a fun process sometimes. It's still challenging, but it's all about the live thing. We've always just been a
yeah,
live band. And the songs totally change over the years. We still play songs that we wrote like, 12 years ago or whatever. Um, Especially like we're about to play this festival Sound and Fury, more of like a hardcore thing, and we've been
yeah,
visiting old, so we're definitely gonna bang out some old songs. But the songs are, I mean, the tempo for one, I mean, like anything with blasting from 12 years ago is like 3, 4 times faster now because we were just young and not fast then. But like other songs, I mean, like some of those songs we've added like cool improvisational sections too, and like I don't know, we just switch shit up. My favorite thing to do personally is change lyrics, which it suits me to do that. But I'll end up changing stuff over the years and like forget what it even was in the beginning. Like and then I'll go back and read the lyric sheet and I'll be like,
yeah,
that's what I was saying. Yeah, but that's my favorite thing to do, especially since the vocals tend to be indecipherable sometimes. Sometimes I like to switch it up a little bit for myself. It like kind of tickles me or whatever, whatever it might be. Switch the themes up or whatever. Little lines here and there.
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I think that's like the coolest part. I love live bands where they switch that shit up. Like Shellac, rest in peace, but like Shellac would like take apart the drum set while they were playing and put it back. I don't know, just like cool shit. Like I love watching bands that are really dialed in and out of the pocket, doing whatever the hell they want. It's admirable.
Oh yeah, they can change it up, and they're as you said, on the fly. So that's a big thing to do, and it's amazing to see. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
dude.
yeah, no, it's amazing. So what's after these tours and that what's coming up kind of next year? Is there, because I know you guys are always writing pretty much all the time.
I don't really know next year yet. I'm sure we'll have to go to Europe. Have to. But other than that, I mean, we talk about going to Japan and Mexico. I think we'll have to pick one of those, not both. My time's a little more limited nowadays, obviously,
Yeah,
and there will be at least one U.S. tour, I'm sure. As far as records go, there's a record coming out in the fall that's kind of like a dub record. Justin Broderick's on it actually. He plays like he's got a whole
Wow.
song. It plays guitar and everything. I'm excited about that. And then I don't know. We want to do a split with Bastard Noise, the Man Is the Bastard guy. That's like a hero
Yeah,
of
yeah.
ours. But we'll probably be doing a split 12-inch with him. We haven't started that. Not even sure what that would sound like. And we've been talking to our friend about doing a 7-inch with this a split with Despise You, who's one of our favorite power violence bands of all
Yeah.
time. Like yeah, like the most gangster power violence band of all time. So, maybe if we can get those guys to write some music, we could do something with them too. And Spencer's been writing tons of songs for the next like proper LP. Lots of real like nothing he sent has been anything short of like that's sick. We got to use that. So I don't
Wow.
know. I don't know. I'm kind of like in a chill spot. It's hard to explain. I kind of had like a moment like where I was under a lot of stress and kind of broke through it, and now I'm just kind of like I don't know. Like I'm kind of just down for whatever comes across the plate that all my bandmates are excited about, and I'm like ready to roll. So we don't really have like a big mission right now. I mean, it's just always been the same. I guarantee there'll be a lot more touring and a bunch more records. And there's another US tour this fall too. That'll be pretty interesting. It's like a different kind of tour for us, but unannounced, kind of weird one.
Yeah. There's there's
Nothing,
all
nothing cool.
what's that?
Nothing like weird. Nothing like extraordinary touring and record, which is fine by me.
Yeah. It's good. There's always something on the horizon. As you said, now you're a parent and stuff as well. So it's it's as you touched on very early in the piece, it's a matter of fitting it all in, but keeping it interesting as well. So
Yeah, it makes you really proficient at like balancing your time because you never really noticed how little time you actually have to yours like all of your time is your own and you feel like you have no time and then you have a kid and then you're just like oh shit. And I feel like generally feel really blessed when I'm out doing something with the band because it's just like I can't believe like everything lined up timing wise that I'm able to maintain this. Like it makes sense for my family. So I just feel fortunate. And when you get out there and your time is your own and you're on tour and you're just fucking around most of the time, you're just like, damn, this is chill. You know what I mean? It just like puts some fear of God in you or something. I don't know. And I love being home most of all for sure. More than ever. I just want to be home.
mm,
But I also like I feel extremely like overly lucky to be doing this shit. So like I gotta own it, you know what I mean? So it's made it easier for me to like really enjoy it because I know I need to do it, take advantage of the
the
extraordinary
experience.
circumstance.
Exactly. Um, Thank you so much for your time and in your like insight. It's great, to yeah, just to kind of shoot the shit about all those processes and stuff. I really appreciate it, and yeah, to get those flavors about it because amazing band and certainly look forward to because this is your second tour, isn't it? Because I think you were last out 2014 or something like that.
The third one.
Third
So
one,
we did
really?
2014 when we did like 21 shows or something fucking crazy.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was with the second one was with White Horse and we did like
Yeah.
that one was really good too. Um, I have really sentimental feelings about the first one though, because like that dude is one of my best friends in the whole world. So it just spawned this friendship that's like transcended everything. We've toured all over the world at this point together. So, but yeah, it's been a long time. And thank you for the thoughtful questions too. I really appreciate it. No one ever really asks about lyrics. So that's nice.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thanks, man. But it's so it's so important. I think it's not just like about the and there is a lot of tedious questions, like about well, do you how did you get your vocal style? How did you you know how would you describe your band? Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's
Which provide even more tedious answers too. So like
it's a
it's not
yeah
all that interesting. But
yeah
thank you so much.
it's a tricky thing.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. I hope to see you down there. Like whatever gigs you want to go to, please reach out. Unless Greg already did. I don't know if he's like guest list, mate. but like whatever.
Yeah, no, he's a look, and he's a great dude too, and he runs great tours, and yeah,
Yeah,
just
dude.
excellent human being, and yeah, I'm definitely going to make at least two of the out of the three Melbourne shows, and yeah,
Oh
definitely
yeah.
the Make It Up Club on. That's a big highlight as well. But yeah, we'll definitely catch up then.
Yeah, let's have a drink or something. It'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, well,
All
thanks
right, brother.
thanks for your time, and yeah, we'll see you in August. Thanks again.
Yeah, man. Have a great day. Take care.